So now we're going to apply those rules, except we're going to be working with monomials. So we've got numbers and variables being used with our fraction. The first thing that we want to do, let's just ignore the variables. We've got the fraction 12/18. Who can raise their hand and give me a number that 12 and 18 are both divisible by? What can we divide both 12 and 18 by? I love it. Let's go ahead and write divide by 6 right here. Twelve divided by 6 is 2. So I have 2x to the 7th power. And 18 divided by 6 is 3. So I have 3x to the 5th power. So that first step right there, you're just simplifying the fraction. Now I have x to the 7th power divided by x to the 5th power. So when I go to deal with this, my 2 and my 3 are going to remain in my numerator and denominator respectively. If I have x to the 7th power divided by x to the 5th power, what do I end up with? X to the 2nd power, very good. And it's going to end up in the numerator because we had more in the numerator than we had in the denominator. So all the x's in the denominator would cancel, but there would be 2 x's left in the numerator, and that would be your answer. So go ahead and try this one on your own for me, please. What are you guys dividing 15 and 8 by? 3, good. So I'm going to go ahead and divide those both by 3. So when I divide by 3, are you guys getting 5z squared divided by 6z? Now, question for you. This z right here doesn't currently have an exponent. Who can raise their hand and tell me what the exponent is? The z doesn't have an exponent. Who can raise their hand and tell me what it is? 1. Go ahead and write that 1 in there. Writing that 1 in can help you really visualize what's about to happen. Everything that doesn't have 1, it's always 1. Yeah? So I still have the 5 in my numerator and the 6 in my denominator. Now I have to simplify z squared divided by z to the 1st power. What are you left with? What's 2 minus 1? 1. So it would be z to the 1st power. And the z's would be in my numerator because I had more z's in my numerator than my denominator. Now, if you have a 1st power, you don't technically have to write that. You could just say 5z. Because it's implied that if you just have that, the exponent is always a 1. Good? All right. Let's jump down to our last example. In this example right here, we are going to be joining our rules from yesterday with our rules from today. So take a look at the denominator. That's a new word. What's a nominator? The numerator. Take a look at the numerator. In our numerator, we have 3x to the 7th power times x to the 3rd power. Right now, what's the coefficient to the number in front of that x? 1, right? It's technically just a 1. So let's ignore the denominator. In my numerator, what can I multiply? You got to remember this from yesterday. Okay, I'm going to give you a hint. For this example right here, take a look at this. Everybody's eyes up on the board. You see how we multiplied 7 times 6 and got 42? And then y to the 11th times 5 and got y to the 16th. We can multiply each of our individual pieces. So back to this problem, who can raise their hand and tell me what can I multiply? What can be multiplied here? Go ahead. Okay, the powers can be, right? Let's start with the coefficients first. Go ahead. The 3 and what? What's 3 times 1? 3, so I get 3. Now, when I go to multiply my powers, I have x to the 7th power times x to the 3rd power. It's 10. Very good. So we get x to the 10th power. Is that what you wanted to do? We're going to get to that. That's going to be the next step. So are you guys okay with where this 3x to the 10th came from? My denominator hasn't changed. It's still 15x to the 5th. Now what do you guys want to do? Simplify, right? What can we divide 3 and 15 by? 3. So 3 divided by 3 is 1. 15 divided by 3 is 5. And now let's look at our variables. X to the 10th divided by x to the 5th. 5. You subtract them. 10 minus 5 is 5. And did we have those more x's in the numerator or denominator? We had 10 and 5. There were more in the numerator, so they end up in the numerator. Does anybody know a different way you could write this final answer? There is one other way. Go ahead. Yep. Very good. You could simply write x to the 5th power over 5. So go ahead and write that down. You don't need, if your coefficient's 1, you don't have to write it. So I want you guys to go ahead and get started on this one right here. See what you can do. We can times our bases, right? Close, 27, I think, right? 27. So that 12p to the 6th power is going to stay the same. And then in our denominator, 9 times 3 gives me 27p squared. Who can raise their hand and help me out from there? Now what? Don't be shy. Now what should I do? I have to simplify. So who can raise their hand and help me start simplifying? Let's start with just the numbers. Everybody can help me simplify 12 and 27. Who can raise their hand and help me out? Not 12. 12 will be 24. I think 3 will work, right? So let's divide by 3. So 12 divided by 3 is 4. 27 divided by 3 is 9. So we simplified the fraction. Now take your finger and cover up the numbers, and let's just look at the variables. P to the 6th power divided by p to the 2nd power. P to the 4th power. Very good. Did we have more p's in the numerator or denominator? Numerator. So they end up in the numerator. 4p to the 4th divided by 9. And your homework for tonight, I have no idea why this blank page printed, but it did. For your homework tonight, I want you guys to do, let's see here. Let's do 16, 17. Hold on a sec. 19, 20, 21, 24. So 6 questions on the front. This is the 4-5 worksheet. 6 questions on the front. On the back, we've got a little bit of work with area. Who can tell me, how do you find the area of a shape again? Multiply what? Close. Multiply the area equals on the right track. So length times width. You were, yes, perimeter is the outside. So I knew you knew it, just couldn't remember the length and the width. I want you guys to do number 26. And then down at the bottom, I want you to do 29, 30, 32, and 33. You will be fine. Get started on it right now. And then upload a picture to Google Classroom when you are done.